Yes, we're from Kforce. I'm Gavin Allyn. I've been there for about 9 years. I'm Kforce's favorite employee, and Lauren Plinski too. Just kidding. Lauren is definitely the favorite employee. I am far from it. Before we get started, I have a couple of disclosures. One is this material is lengthy. There is a reality that I could go on all day about a couple of these subjects and take time with you and help you understand how to be more presentable, how to represent yourself to companies, how to have your resume and get noticed, all of these things, interview preparation, which I wasn't able to cover today, but there's a reality of that. So we're only going to scratch the surface, but I want to touch on a couple of topics. And then feel free to contact us after, talk to us, ask us questions. You can talk to us here for a little bit. And another part is being interactive. So please don't be afraid to yell, laugh, afraid to chime in. I may even call on you. Just kidding. I'm not actually going to call on anybody unless I want to be, except for you. I'm definitely calling on you. Just kidding. I'm not going to be on. All right. And then lastly, I just wanted to ask if all the hiring managers could raise their hands for the people here. I know a lot of people are trying to get connected. Awesome. So they're going to be my BS meters. Basically, if I am saying anything that does not jive, you feel like, hey, that's way off, don't do that. Please look at your hiring managers, look at their face. If it's twisted and contorted, you just know I'm full of it and I need to change something. All right, let's get in. So you want to get into the tech industry or move to a new company as an engineer, and you're starting to ask yourself how to do that. So you're asking yourself, how am I going to do that? What do I do? Where do I start? And then you're thinking, it can't be that hard. I just graduated. It'll be easy, right? It can't be hard. Easy, right? 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 Wrong. I'm just kidding. Well, I mean, I might be. I don't know. I could be wrong, but we're gonna go over a couple things. So, in the agenda today, we have a couple resume tips and tricks, get in front of the right people, current market trends. Hopefully, we'll have time to go over that, and give you a couple things. And finally, your chance to make cry on my way home with tough questions you bought for Q&A. They're good tears or happy tears or sad tears. That's up to you and what you hate about me. So we're going to go into the resumes, tips, and tricks. Between just Lauren and myself, I looked at thousands of resumes. There's a couple things that I would take away to give tips to everyone. And the first thing isn't about the resumes itself. It's about the resume application lifecycle. And we did talk about it a little bit already. But if you're here and you're not hearing back from hiring managers, you feel like, hey, I've applied to 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 roles, I'm not hearing back. It's because your resumes are going into kind of a black hole. It's not anybody's fault. You have to have empathy or sympathy for the individuals on the other side. They are fielding hundreds of applications a day per role. And they're still trying to do their job. They're still trying to make sure they call and get interviews. So there's just a reality that if you don't hear back, it's probably just because they can't get to you. You had the misfortune of applying at the wrong time. As far as resumes go, you want to follow some formats and structures of resumes. And then we're going to talk about text, layout, technologies, repetition, pages, pictures, and graphics. So some of that was already covered, but I'm going to talk about it in a little bit more depth, which is on the format and structure of a resume. Kevin talked about this, but don't get too creative. If you're a UX designer, that's okay. You can be creative, you can kind of show off your skills. But in reality, outside of that, you probably want to be far more straightforward. Give yourself the best chance to have the details that people are looking for. If it's back-end engineering, you want to focus on your back-end engineering skills, the technology you've been utilizing. You don't want to get inundated with fluff, things that people aren't looking for, making major indents into it to make it look like you have more experience than you do. It's not important. You don't need to do that, and really no one cares. So focus on that in the format and structure of your resume. Don't go overly bold with your text. And then the layout itself, focus on the technology you've been doing. So you can have a big brick of text, you can have a lot of words, and reality is it's gonna be really difficult for people to read. and they're going to stop reading it. They're going to kind of skim through it like everyone else, because again, they're getting through hundreds of resumes. And so with that being said, you're going to slow down, you're going to bullet point your experience, you're going to summarize in a way that people can follow, that people quickly look at, to easily pick out the technologies you've been working with, pick out the experience that's important to them. Remember that 18-line trick. As far as repetition, so there's been some bad advice out there that has told people don't be repetitive in the things that you put in a resume. Yes, that's true for certain aspects, but when it comes to technology, you can't repeat it too much. If you're a Java engineer and you're focusing on Java, you should be talking about your Java experience, where you've done it, how you've done it, in a clear way so they can follow what you're doing, but also see that you have all that Java experience. It makes sense what you're saying. You don't want to inundate anybody with a million technologies and put yourself in a bad position when you get into interviews, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But the reality is that hiring managers want to see, if you're applying for a Java role, you have a lot of experience in Java, and whatever coinciding technologies that you've worked with. The other technologies that you don't have as much experience with, it's great, put it on there anyway. That may be important to the role, but realistically, again, they're trying to identify what you've done. The other aspect of that is kind of what they talked about before, which is hiring manager gets it. Maybe it's an HR person, maybe it's a recruiter that doesn't really understand the technologies, doesn't really understand what they're looking at. And it happens all the time. They'll push Control-5 and they'll scan through your resume and see how many times the specific keyword they're looking for comes up. It doesn't come out at all, or it only comes up once. They may pass on your resume just for that fact. And it's not because you didn't have the experience, it's just because that is their metric they're using to figure out who to talk to. And they're not as familiar with the technology stack you've been working in.
I think one thing on that too, Gavin, is not just how many times, but where you have it. A lot of times when we look at resumes, you'll see like a technology section at the top, and it might say Java once in there, and then you don't have it anywhere else, but you've been using it for the last 5 years. You have to put it in the experience and where you were using it. And I think the impact and like the project details around it are really important. So the placement is important to you, not just, once at the top or a bunch at the top. It needs to be in your experience.
Absolutely. There's a couple other things. So the length, as far as pages go, I usually say 1 to 3. I heard a lot of people in here say they prefer 1 page. If you can do it, great. For people that have been in the industry for a little bit longer and they fall in love with their resume, they fall in love with their experience, it's really hard for them to cut it down. And so usually I say between 1 and 3. If you go past 10 years, you can start to summarize by saying position, company you worked at, dates you worked at it. If people are interested in it, they'll ask you about it. It's not anything you need to be concerned about. They're looking for your relevant technology, so most recent experience in technology. If you're not staying up to date, you're already falling behind. So that is a reality of that too. As far as the cover letter goes, I get asked this question a lot. There's no really good answer to this. I would say you don't need to do it. I would say most people aren't reading it. There are great times to do a cover letter, but from what I've seen, most of the time they're going to look at your resume first, and then if they like you and they like your experience, they're going to go back and look at your cover letter and read a little bit more about you. So it's not catching their attention per se. The other mistake I see a lot of people doing with their cover letters is it's a generic cover letter where they plug in the company and their name and send it over, but people read through that and realize it's not anything that's geared towards them. So it kind of eliminates the purpose of the cover letters. The cover letter should be specific to who you're applying to, why you want to be there, what's your interest. And then lastly, AI is your friend. So I'm going to plug your ears, but you've probably all heard of ChatGPT. If you haven't, I don't believe you, but the reality is you can use ChatGPT to do a lot of the work for you. Setting up a resume is daunting sometimes. If you're starting from square one, or you feel like you have to reformat your whole resume, it's like you sit there and go, I don't know what to do right now. I don't know where to start. I'm Googling things and nothing makes sense. And so ChatGPT can be a great tool to take that away from you, or other AI tools. Take your resume, plug it in, and tell it to format, tell it, here's my experience, etc. The other really cool thing you can do, if you know what job you want to apply to, or you know the skill set you're focusing on. So let's say you want to apply for myriad genetics. You find the job you're interested in. You take that job description, you plug it into ChatGPT and say, hey, write me a resume based on this job description. Now, take my experience and incorporate it into that resume. You want to be careful. Don't just take it because it said, hey, this is how you do it. You want to make sure that it aligns with your experience. You want to make sure that it's actually something that you can present that speaks to you well. So you still need to review it. Don't just send it after that. Make sure that you're, basically making sure that it actually is accurate to you. But it'll help you stand out. It'll help you actually have the right stuff, the right experience that speaks to the language that the company is using, because it's not universal. A lot of people call things, there's a lot of acronyms for different technologies. There's a reality that there's a lot of miscommunication just based on, I will say something one way and mean it one way, and then you'll say something one way and mean it a different way. So it's a way to quickly address that. And then lastly, on the resume review, all this is make sure that you review your resume multiple times. Lots of typos come up in resumes, lots of missing. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a resume that said attention to detail, and then they have multiple typos in it. So just be aware of that. Make sure you review it. Also, ask somebody that doesn't know the technology or doesn't know the industry you're in to review it as well. The only thing you're wanting from this is so that they can tell you they can understand it, because you don't know who's on the other side of that receiving that resume half the time. And so now you know that there's language there that is easily followable. You're not being overcomplicated. You're not using too much industry terms or acronyms. They know what you're talking about.
I think one other thing on that too, Gavin, not only someone who maybe doesn't know tech, but I would recommend leveraging a company like the Kforce, or there's lots of different staffing firms out there. You may know someone in recruiting, have them take a look at it too. Like, it doesn't hurt. They may be able to give you some tips and advice, and it's on the candidate side, free to do that. Like, anyone can reach out to me or Gavin to help take a quick look, and we'll offer like our services for free to take a look and give advice. So just make sure you're leveraging lots of different people in your network to make sure you're presenting yourself the right way.
So this is probably the most difficult thing everyone comes across. This is why my industry exists. This is largely what I do for a living. Getting in front of the right people, making sure your resume has been seen, that you're applying to the right job, that you're actually talking to the hiring manager that you want to be. There's a couple things you can do. You can't always do it, but I give you advice on how. So the first thing is do the work. I'll give you an example of what not to do. Say you're LinkedIn messaging somebody, a hiring manager, and you're pretty sure they're the person over this role. You message them and say, hey, I just sent you my resume. Can you take a look at it and tell me if I'm a fit for any position at this company? Guess what kind of responses you're going to get? Probably nothing. You're probably not going to hear back because you've asked them to do a bunch of work for you that you should have done. And what's in it for them? Why should they do this for you? So do not do that. There's probably a bunch of hiring managers in here right now that can relate to that, because I'm sure they've seen that a couple of times. So do the work. What it should have said is, hey, my name is XYZ. I came across this position, send them the link. I'm really interested in it. I'm a fit for these reasons, and give them 2 bullet points of why your experience aligns well with the job description itself. I don't know if you're the person over this position that's hiring, but if you are, what would be the process to apply? If not, can you point me in the right direction of the right person to speak with? You will probably get a very positive response from that. Most people want to help other people. You've done all the work for them. They're not really questioning if you're a fit or not. They're just saying, oh yeah, I am the right person or I'm not the right person. You'll have a very, very positive feedback in that regard. But also be patient. Their time is not your time. You may send a message and you're really hoping for 24 hours response, but they're busy. They haven't gone to it. They plan on it, but they haven't done it still. So just be patient and don't pester. That kind of goes into LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, like they said before, should mirror your resume. Let LinkedIn do a bunch of the work for you. Have it showing who you are, with the technologies you work with, all the same things you expect in your resume. Put yourself open to work and let people come to you. People like me, people internally will be reaching out to you, trying to help you find that job. So that's something you can do passively all the time. And then recommendations. This is an underutilized thing, but I promise you it will help you tremendously. You have a recommendations page or section in your LinkedIn. Get recommendations. Ask people that you've worked with. If you're coming from school, ask classmates, ask teachers, ask hiring managers, previous hiring managers, whoever that can speak to your business, can speak to your ability, speak to the things that hiring managers are actually looking for, and give them a recommendation or ask them for a recommendation. You can even write it out if you really want to, and just say like, hey, as long as you're cool with this, go ahead and put it as a recommendation. So that's a little tip that you can do, and it will make you stand out. It'll be something that someone can reference directly and actually be your proof point, essentially saying, hey, don't take my word for it, take their word for it.
I want to hit on one thing too, just on LinkedIn, and I know it's now been mentioned multiple times, so mirroring your resume. So on our side, when we go to find candidates, we go out and find candidates mostly. We do have people that apply to our roles and we'll go match them to the right opportunities, but we go and find them based on keywords and the requirements for the job. So if you just have that you were a software engineer at this company with no other information, your technologies aren't listed, your projects aren't there, you're probably not even going to come up on my search to reach out to them. You could be a great fit. So it's really important that you put those same details you have in your resume into your profile, because a huge population is searching for the right person. And then another thing too, I mean, we're so social now, right? Like we're all online, different platforms, like your LinkedIn page should really be a representation of you. So if you're involved in other things outside of work, put them on there. It's a great way to connect with other people. If you like to come to these type of events, share that you're coming. Like there's just so many.
Share that you're coming to the event.
There's so many ways that you can connect with people online, and people are willing to help you. So if you're just getting into tech, like, and you are being active on there, that's a whole piece of social media, is that you're active and engaging with people. Like I think it'll help you go a lot further than if you just have your picture, your current role on the page.
Be easily searchable.
Yep.
That's great. For a couple of these, so these all kind of mesh together, right? So actually, I want to talk about in-person real fast. This is something completely neglected by most people at this point. Do not be afraid to go to the company that you're interested in. Bring your resume, be dressed professionally or how you want to best represent yourself, and ask for the hiring manager that's over this role. They may not direct you to them. Don't get discouraged by that. But being able to show up and say, hey, I'm here for this position and I want to give you my resume, that rarely happens anymore. So it will help you stand out a lot in the local market.
Are you saying like literally just walk into reception?
I know it's a crazy concept, but it's true.
For
Yeah.
some of the software engineers in here, wear toe covering shoes. At least
This is one of the first times. Wow. But in all reality, it is a huge thing. People don't do it anymore. It will help you stand out. You may get lucky and actually be able to deliver it directly to the hiring manager. It depends on what how the company feels, but it will be a big deal. They will hear about it. They will hear that somebody came in and dropped off the resume first. I promise, because it never happens. And I just wanted to make that note. And then the three other things: referrals, events, and coworkers. So we're all at an event right now, geared for meeting people, to networking, to know who your people in the industry are that are interested in the same things. You saw a couple people raise their hands, their hiring managers. I'm not saying bother them after this, but I'm saying introduce yourself. Make sure that you're known. Make sure you're making real connections. You came here for a reason. Talk to people. People want to help people they know. People will refer people that they trust or that they actually had a conversation with, things like that. It will help you in the long run. Keep showing up, showing your face, showing people who you are. It will help you a lot. And so that brings to referrals. So it's kind of, you could ask some random stranger for a referral, but the likelihood of that happening is almost zero. So you want to make more connections so you can make those referrals or ask for those referrals to get the places. Referrals don't always look like, hey, refer me into the company, but it could mean, hey, I know you just interviewed somebody. Do you know anywhere else that they're looking, or something like that? It can be asking just a person that you know, hey, do you know if your company's hiring or anyone else? If you go the referral route, if you're asking for referrals, if they can help you, I like to tell people that, hey, if your company has a referral bonus for doing it, definitely put me as your referral and capitalize on that. Who doesn't want an extra $5K for having somebody come in? And then last, You have coworkers, friends, families, colleagues, whoever. Don't be afraid to reach out to your own network, talk to them, and ask them, who do you know is hiring? Is your company hiring? Whatever it is, as long as you have a good relationship with that person, they're probably going to help you out and at least point you in the right direction. And so I want to stress that as well, because I think that's very underutilized. You don't have to be annoying. You don't have to be like Thanksgiving awkward because you made your whole family feel weird that you kept asking them for referrals. But talk to people in your own network directly that we don't usually think of for help. So
one other thing too, LinkedIn is really powerful for. If you do go to a company page, you can see the employees that work there, so you can see if you have connections. So make sure you take a look at that. But my husband recently was looking for work, not in my same industry, so I don't have like direct connections for him, but I kind of help him show like, you have to leverage your network in this current day and age when you're going to apply for roles. Like he applied to ones, never heard back, but he also didn't reach out on them. The ones he did reach out on or tried to find some type of connection to, he heard back on. So you have to put in the work like it says, but leverage your network, use the tools you guys have, they're free. Like there's just so much out there to help you get to the right person and get into the right opportunity.
an actual work will pay off. So this is market trends, top skill sets, job availability in tech field, entry level technical roles, and expectations. So on the top skill sets, some of them are definitely the same ones we see over and over again as far as development goes, .NET, Java, JavaScript. But as far as the actual domains, you're looking at data science is on a huge rise, AI, machine learning is on a huge rise. You might hear it called ChatGPT engineers, depending on the company, what their focus is.
He did mention Python. I know Python.
Was that?
You didn't mention Python. I'm just throwing it out there.
Python is huge, but again, in that data science, data engineering aspect, it's huge. Even in development as well, but it's definitely going to be the focus on the AI, machine learning, data science. And then DevOps is still coming up. We're seeing more of a move to site reliability engineering, less than DevOps. and
Security.
Security, yeah, security.
Cloud and
starting to get a big
digital.
focus on that. And cloud infrastructure, absolutely. I think those are the big ones.
And if you guys want any insight on top skill sets, like we did not just mention something that you're interested in or going into, you can reach out to us. We have a lot of access to like tools and stuff that Kforce gives us to go in and find like top companies hiring these skill sets. How many people in Utah got hired into this skill set? What are the trends we're seeing? What are we seeing in terms of compensation? If you guys are ever interested, or we didn't just mention a skill set you want to learn more about, come and talk to us. We can help you guys get that information.
And I think something that's on a lot of people's minds right now is job availability in tech. I think a lot of people are hearing the market's slowing down, that there's less hiring going on. That is true. But you have to understand we came off 2 years of a market that I don't think anyone here has ever seen. Maybe back in the .com boom, maybe. But you really haven't seen companies throwing money at people. It didn't matter where you went, there was a job available for you. So it's hard to come off that and then move back into just what I would say is a normal market. Prior to COVID, this is what we would see. Job length, interview length of time, or however you want to say it, is taking a little bit longer, but it's going back to what the norm was. Anybody that's been in this industry for a long time probably recognizes it for what it is. It's just normalizing again. So as far as job availability goes, there's still plenty in the tech field. Is that the current labor indications?
Yeah, this was October, so it is down a little bit. Our overall like total job gains. Unemployment is still healthy. Utah's even lower than that, and specifically, this is not technology, it's just overall. And wage growth is still up year over year. I do think one interesting thing, our company is focused on helping organizations build teams in technology, whether that be staff augmentation, or maybe we're coming in to like do a whole project and build for someone. But what we're seeing is organizations are still investing in technology. So it's very positive for our space, because as companies are trying to prioritize with this current kind of like macro environment, what they're going to be spending money on, they're still investing in technology. So while things are down, it is still very positive if this is an industry and an area that you're looking to get into.
And there's still a reality that's total job gains.
Yeah.
So we're still seeing an increase. As far as entry-level technical roles go, because I know a lot of people are interested in that in this meetup, we're seeing still a big increase in there. They're still out there. They're still very available. Probably healthier than it has been for quite some time. So they're there. You just have to be persistent. And then pay expectations. I'm not going to get too much into this because I know it's a touchy subject and a lot of people get upset. What I would just say in pay expectations is you may be told one thing in college or by your friend or the person working in the Bay Area or something like that. Just understand that if you're trying to get into a new industry, if you're trying to get into the industry, into the actual working space, you have to be open to what is being offered. You have to see a longer path than what happens today. There's a reality that you can move up quickly in compensation if that's the biggest thing for you. It won't take a lot of time, but you have to offer something to the companies for that pay expectation. You have to be ready to get the experience so you can start saying, yes, I'm worth what I'm asking for. And it's hard to do that when you don't have the experience. So just understand that, be reasonable with the company. Yeah.
We got I'll give you 4 minutes for Q&A. I think this is really important. And I have the first question. So for people breaking into the industry, so from my history of hiring people, I love hiring people into software and development from different sides. I hire lab techs because I used to deliver software like LIMS systems. So having a lab tech on my team, it's easier for me to teach somebody who's familiar with genetics and lab work, Python, than it is vice versa, having a software engineer and teaching genetics. How do you sell that in a recruiting force? Because like, I know how to find these people in my small world, but on the grander scheme, like you're in the lab, you develop lab, and you dabbled with building a website. And sometimes that's enough. That's enough aptitude that I know that I can teach you. But to a recruiter, how do you recommend to market that skill?
Yeah, I can answer that. I mean, so when we get people coming to us that are in an entry-level role, it's hard because companies are coming to us looking for experience and expertise and consultants to come in that can hit the ground running. So usually the advice we give is, where are you currently at? And have you evaluated if there's opportunity there first? Because that is a great way to get into an entry-level technology role, is in the organization you're already in. There's not a lot of risk for an organization to evaluate their current base of employees and move someone into that. For them to bring someone in from the outside would be a lot scarier, right? There's a lot more risk. So from a recruiting seat, while we usually aren't maybe placing entry-level people as often, that's a lot of times the advice I'd give is look at where you're currently at and see if you have that opportunity to go and network in your own organization first.
So I guess kind of going off of that, so I've been home with my kids for the last 17 years. So like Kevin was mentioning, the last 10 years are your most important on your resume.
Yeah.
I have a lot of skills, you know what I mean? So like, what would somebody in like my position do where I'm trying to break into the industry and my degree is kind of old, even if it is technically based?
The first question I would just ask is, what have you been doing to keep your skills relevant or up to date? Like what is it that says, I want to make a transition to this that I've been doing? And that's going to be one of the biggest things. So I had a different slide on here originally, but I had to get rid of it, but it was about interview preparation and things like that. So that would be something we touch on, where hiring managers love to see that you have a passion and interest for whatever field or technology or whatever it is that you're trying to get into. And one of the biggest ways, and easiest ways to convey that is the things that you do on the side, things that you do when you don't have to. So if you're taking some time to create projects, to familiarize yourself with those things, anything you can show in that way is exponential. That would be my best advice, because I know it's hard to get back in. We've helped several people.
Well, and I mean, like, if you can't, how do you show that on a resume?
I mean, it would depend on what the project was, but
Yeah.
if you have a GitHub, if you had a personal project, I don't know if you're talking, are you talking about programming or you're talking about something else?
Programming, like, program management, like, I'm still kind of open.
So anything in that nature, if you have a project that you've been doing, put it on there. If you have education that you've been doing, put it on there. Put it on your accomplishments, whatever it is, if it's certifications or if it's just courses that you've been taking, add that into there so they can see that this is your driver. I've been doing this, I want to do this, and this is the best way I can portray it to you on my resume. That would really be how I would say to get noticed on that.
And I think in-person networking is huge, like making the face-to-face connections. It's a lot harder to not say no to someone, but like people are gonna be willing to help you a lot more if you are meeting them in person. So I think like coming to this event is great. There's so many in our community that you can go to meet people in technology. So really leverage the people around you.
And actually, the woman you're sitting next to is from Tech Moms. And they
Also, hold on.
Meet up to that, right?
Like the Women in Technology and Science group through BioHUD is doing a returnships program specifically for those kinds of situations. So come chat with me, and all of the rest of you, tell your friends if they're in these situations. We've got some new initiatives, and we're actually partnering with Tech Moms to help you with that.
Cool.
So it kind of goes off the back of what Martina said. I'm myself teaching Python, and I have a bunch of projects that are finished, but trying to tell a recruiter that and then showing them a complete project if they were to look at it would be more of like, would that be a bad thing to show if it had a lot of bugs or it was kind of messy? But it is a project that you like. I don't know how you would want to highlight that or hide it until hide it until the perfect. If you don't want it to be criticized, I guess it's kind of what the scary part about it.
That's a good question. What I would say is it's going to depend on where you're at in your career. If you feel like your project is not deployable or safe or something, for example, and you're saying, hey, I'm a senior engineer, they're going to be concerned about that, right? But if it's, hey, I'm getting into the industry, this is the kind of stuff I'm capable of, this is what I've been doing, and again, showing your passion, your interest. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. I don't know if you guys are going to be running your code through a compiler, making sure it works. But I haven't done that personally, so I don't know. But you know, I wouldn't be too worried about that as opposed to showing, hey, this is my interest, this is what I'm trying to do, and I'm doing it right now.
And I guess it just would go off, would it be appropriate to apply for a job that, say you have these programs and the bugs are what the job requires? So it's kind of like, would you be able to teach me to fix mine and yours?
I can chime in on that.
Yeah.
Like, we do code testing assignments when we hire people, and I usually run them by my senior engineers to look at them. And what I found out is when they look at them, like my senior engineers, when they look at your coding problems, they don't necessarily care as much that you have bugs. They really look at the logic and how you implement it. So it doesn't actually have to compile or work. Like if that fails, I've hired people who failed the actual coding exercise, but my engineers said like the logic was solid. They missed a couple things here and there. We can teach that, but the logic of implementation was there, and that's what's important. So don't, like when you're doing those coding exercises, don't think that like if you didn't get the right answer that it's out the question, like out the door, because engineers will spot that you're thinking right about the logic, and it doesn't matter that it has bugs.
Or add comments in your code that say why you're choosing that logic. Like
That's
I'm doing this
supposed to be-
because of this,
Yeah.
and then write the code and then go to the next comment and say why you're doing that. That's helpful.
Particularly if you're trying to use really clever syntax that might be complicated and hard to read, commenting along the way is great. And preferably don't use super complicated syntax to implement what you're trying to do, because it's great to build readable code that's maintainable, and that's really important.
Appreciate that.
All right, I'm gonna